Chelsea tonight, Danny. They're looking to bounce back from the weekend's defeat to Wolves. They're at Villa tonight. FA Cup fourth round replay. It's live on talkSPORT. Pochettino has said he has received, quotes, a very good text from the club's owners insisting everyone at the club is in this together. I mean, you wouldn't expect it any other way. Does he need a text to be told that?
Not necessarily, but I suppose it always helps if you're getting some support from upstairs and he can then publicly say it to shut a few people down and stop answering, having to answer the question, I should say. It's a big game for him tonight. They've got a few big ones coming up.
Yeah.
The next 3 or 4 games are really big, including the cup final against Liverpool. He needs some results because there's a lot of discontent.
There is. I mean, there's a message, Danny. I'm a Chelsea fan, but I am already resigned to Chelsea not progressing to the next round of the FA Cup tonight. We will go out. So there's pessimism in various quarters.
Well, they've got players who are capable of winning any game. They haven't looked for a little while like performing to those levels, but they've got the capabilities. They're not going into this game at Villa destined to lose. I mean, that's ridiculous. I mean, Chelsea fans are obviously a little bit negative at the moment for what they've seen, especially in the last week, hammering at Liverpool. Wolves go there and score 4 past them. Do you know, it's strange football because I was saying this to someone the other day. I saw all the games Sunday, so I watched Chelsea Wolves in its entirety. Games of football, in isolation, that game, Chelsea were probably just the better when they went 1-0 up. They find themselves 2-1 down through 2 deflections. And all of a sudden, the mood changed like that.
Yeah.
The fans become anxious. It transfers to the players. Wolves gain confidence, start thinking they're there for the taking. And the difference in a 4-minute spell at 1-1 where Chelsea were probably still the better, it was unbelievable. I mean, Wolves were great. So, they really did put them to the sword when they got their tails up.
Yeah, but you're right, Danny. When you see the scoreline, far from the whole story.
Yeah, and I think, look, Chelsea are just it doesn't matter who went in there really, unless it was Pep, maybe. But anyone else, they've sacked Poch now and bring someone else in. He's still dealing with the same players and the same problems. They bought potential. It's never been done. Can't think of an example of any club has ever spent that much money on potentially good players, rather than ready-made.
Reports this week suggest Chelsea are concerned that sacking Pochettino at this moment would put them in danger of breaching Premier League profit and sustainability rules.
Well, I think that's just a stupid analysis.
Really?
I mean, the club have spent £1 billion. And you're suggesting that a £10 million payoff is going to be the reasons why they breach financial fair play? I think that's just a silly analysis.
Yeah,
and
but they're at the limit already, are they not?
Well, who knows?
Who made the analysis?
Well, have a listen, Simon. Your best friend, Stefan Borson, former financial advisor to Manchester City, was talking to us about Chelsea.
In my mind, there's certainly trouble on the horizon, and they will certainly fail financial fair play for the current season, unless... it seems to me very unlikely that by the 30th of June this year, they sell well over £100 million of players. But the window that they can now do that is going to be very small because the season's going to finish and we've got the Euros. So if you look at someone like Gallagher's going to be in the Euros from the 14th of June. So if they want to ship Gallagher before the 30th of June, they've got to move very, very quickly. And again, the likely buyers are going to know that Chelsea need to sell players.
So, Simon, I mean, they don't want to sack Pochettino because they don't want to incur any extra losses.
Well, but that's a silly argument because if Pochettino is a waste of time and you can get someone in that can get you 4 places up the league, you just put 10 million quid back on your income because you get merit payments. So if Pochettino is the wrong manager and is producing the wrong outcomes and you're going to suffer as a result of it in the Premier League, if you get someone in that gets better results, that gets you 3 or 4 places up the league, you've just got 10 million in merit payments and that goes into the neutral column of what you paid for it, what you have to pay him to go out the door. And you'd also structure his deal over a period of time on the way out so it wouldn't all hit the financial obligations of this season. So that's nonsense for a start. Stefan's observations about their inability to meet financial fair play are probably likely, because their team is not qualifying for Europe. They're not producing any additional income of any substance. So the challenges are going to be that they have to look at how they're going to meet their financial fair play obligations. These guys aren't stupid. They're private equity guys. They might be prepared, like everyone else is in football, to have ignored some of the consequences of financial fair play. Well, they're not looking very bright as we sit today. But with due respect to the project, this is a marathon, not a sprint. They spent £2.5 billion on a football club, and maybe they've made some mistakes.
Well,
And
Henry
clearly-
Winter in the Times is saying, can anybody be impressed by Chelsea under Boehly's direction? He has to take the most responsibility. He's a private equity king in the US who's looking an utter amateur in English football. Is Boehly too arrogant to learn?
Well, that's Henry's opinion. And clearly on the field, that supports that opinion. And clearly with the backstory of Tuchel departing and Champions League winner, no one really is interested in why that would have happened and if they'd have been in that position, what they would have done with Tuchel and his behaviour. No one's really interested in the reasons why Bruce Buck and Marina left because they were all structured deals that were going anyway. No one's interested in those things. They're only interested in the fact this guy's come in and cleared it out. He's an American plaid trouser wearing, doesn't understand the football world, buying players at top money, imbecile in their view, because it's very easy to make that situation stick. I'm not going to defend them because I do think they've made classic mistakes. I do think they've overpaid. I do think this is
On potential.
Well,
Danny's right with the point.
Okay, well, potentially Liverpool bid £100 million for Caicedo. So, with due respect,
That was ridiculous
They
as
were
well.
prepared to pay that money.
Yeah, but Liverpool had title winning
It was still on potential.
Fernandes was a World Cup winner. Other people were in for Madrid. Now, I find myself in this camp of defending Boehly and
Simon,
Chelsea.
to quote you, they made a Horlicks of
Not
it.
because I want to, but because I think that the observations are unbalanced. And unfortunately, right now, they're supported by the team's performance in the Premier League.
Yeah.
Right? They're in the FA Cup. They're in the League Cup final. Right? So with that in mind, the only thing that's supporting this argument is the ridiculousness of their position in the Premier League, which is halfway through a season, might change. I grant you it's not good enough. I grant you that the overwhelming optics support the argument. But the only thing that Boehly has done probably wrong is overpaid for players.
Just a bit.
But that's his problem. That's his money.
See, this
if
is Chelsea.
he's crying about
this is
it,
Chelsea fan. Here we go again. Clear Lake's lawyer, a.k.a. Simon Jordan.
Oh, shut up, you Wally. It's called a different opinion. It's called having a balancing view.
I think the real thing here is, the real big question at the moment that keeps coming up is about Poch's future. The fact is, he's good with working with young players, and if you look at his history, especially his start at his tenure at Tottenham, his first year wasn't that great. He does take time to implement his ideas and build up the ethos of the team and all those things. He's got a really young group. He's got some talented players. But let's see where he is in the summer.
When have you ever heard, I mean, we hear the narrative constantly being peddled out through sections of the media about owners that don't invest in their football clubs. Now we've got the polar opposite.
No, but this is almost to the ridiculous.
I know it is. But we've now got the other end of the spectrum, which you cannot deny the man's invested in a football club.
I agree.
Oh, he had a right.
He bought a football club that 18 months ago, the same scribes in the media would be saying was existentially in great jeopardy. Right? And 18 months later, it's not going according to plan. But with due respect to this proposition, it will take a passage. I didn't envisage it would go this way. I didn't envisage that this season they would be as bad as they are because I think they're an ugly team to watch. I don't think they're great on the eye. But I do think a lot of the players they bought, I do think a lot of the players that they bought, are players that other teams wanted. So when Souness sits in here saying who they're listening to the same people. The only thing they're not doing is they're not paying the right money for these players.
Right.
But what difference does that make? If they bought them for 25 million, so if they'd have spent 75 million pound less or 150 million pound less and still stunk the place out, the argument would still be the same.
Incidentally, I noticed when Souness is in here, you call him Gray or Graham, but when he's not here, Souness said it.
I say Souness to him every now and again.
Call him Souness to his face next time you're in.
Mr.
Souness! Now, here's the thing. How easy or otherwise is it as a footballer to make sure your family don't become the story? I wonder how Thiago Silva is really feeling about what Mrs. Silva said on Twitter. It's 10:30.
Jim White and Simon Jordan. Monday to Friday mornings from 10 on AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.